Hello and welcome to Filmfolket's podcast. We that speaks today is Göran,
Johannes,
Danne,
and Björn.
Today's movie is From Dusk Till Dawn. The movie in brief.
The brothers Seth and Richie Gecko are fleeing the US after a prison break followed by a crime spree. Chased by police, and at a motel near the border they come across the Fuller family of lapsed pastor Jacob and his two teens whose recreational vehicle get them into Mexico. To meet with Seth's Mexican associate Carlos, the brothers take the apprehensive Fullers to the Titty Twister, a questionable establishment with booze, music and dancers. Things seem to be going quite well until night falls and the whole place descends into bloody chaos.
That is a good summary, and this is a movie that I've been wanted to see for a long time, and it's very bizarre, nice effects, and just how the movie is shot. And when we come to the gas station, when it comes to the scene with
it's a liquor store. If you in the beginning there,
but
yeah.
It looks like a gas station, okay,
but it is a liquor store.
okay, liquor
It's a
store.
huge sign.
But anyhow, especially when the scene with the two brothers, when George Clooney they have to retake that scene like a couple of times, mostly because of I think it was something that how it was shot, and they couldn't get it right, so they had to retake it like a couple of times.
There's some issues with the camera focusing. It's a very unusual feature given how just about half of the movie is one thing and the other half is something else. It's to do with the movie being written by Quentin Tarantino, who also plays Richie, and directed by Robert Rodriguez, whom he also works with a number of times on different projects. So as a product of Rodriguez's more action movie sensibilities, you have the second half with its very peculiar form, while the first half is more of Tarantino's more trademark dialogues and tension scenes. So it's artistically it's pretty unique. We are basically rounding off our Sinners cycle with an earlier example of vampires making a mess of things for two gangster brothers in a twist. As the script says, all hell breaks loose.
I really like the scene at the beginning there in the liquor store when they start to shoot up the place and they set the store clerk on fire. I think that looked really cool when he was running around and shooting at them but burning.
Little over the top how he, when he was burning and fell into a popcorn stand and all the popcorn popping up around him. It's a little grim, so to speak.
Yes, it's typical Tarantino dark comedy, that kind of a thing.
It was a comical end to his life. But still, it looked very cool.
I think it's interesting to see George Clooney in his first major role, aside from the ER hospital TV show. And you have this situation with a point of Seth, he really loves his brother enough to do all the things he do, but it's a struggle. And Richie being this violently insane pervert with clear delusions and all kinds of things going on, and family bonds making you put up with a lot of things, but Seth isn't rational about any of it. It's an enormous blind spot, and Seth is in no way supposed to be a sympathetic character. I think that's interesting to have what's basically quote-unquote hero character be a complete jerk in every way.
Yeah, he was selfish and jerkish the whole movie up until the very end, I would say. Since it more or less became a survival movie in the end, well, he did his best and helped where he could. And then he gave the money to this girl then at the very end and said, just go home, live your life, forget about all this. Otherwise, he couldn't care less for anyone except his brother and himself. So a little interesting direction to take this character.
I also think it's fun to have Cheech Marin as the announcer outside the Titty Twister. He's actually playing 3 roles in this movie. He's also a cop at the border, and he is also Carlos, the Mexican mafia representative at the end.
Yeah, it's pretty cool playing 3 roles like that. But that announcer at the Tit Twister, it's just... It gets so silly when they get to that point. Oh,
It's very hard to take anything serious after that, yeah.
I mean, the belt buckle gun or the nut protector. It's something else. It's very cool.
It's very Rodriguez.
Oh.
If you want more of this kind of thing, it's could be interesting to watch Planet Terror, which is also this extremely over-the-top movie.
Oh yeah, I haven't watched that in ages. I find it funny also how inconsistent the whole turning into a vampire is. Some turn like immediately, some takes several minutes, and some but oh right, he got bitten. Now he's a vampire. So yeah. The only thing I can understand if it's that the priest could take longer because closer to God or something like that.
Yeah, it would slow it down significantly.
But other than that, it feels like it's very inconsistent, like how long it takes.
Absolutely.
So I was thinking about that. It's kind of a zombie movie logic with these things. And it's really expressed pretty well with Tom Savini's sex machine, who's been bitten and tries to hide it. That's a very zombie movie style.
It kind of felt like it had a bit of a Gremlins vibe. Behold the comedy and such. I don't know why. Maybe it's the practical effects when he was turning and his hands got...
The fact that the vampires melt and everything, it's very Gremlins.
Yeah, so... But it's cool. I like those practical effects. And
some were better than others.
yes, yeah.
But they were pretty... It was very clear that it was from the same movie.
They're goofy, but yeah, they're cool.
I mean, it was so funny when the other guy was talking, and then you see the like claws on the shoulders.
Guess who?
He crept up on him. And that was also very Gremlins-like.
You also have Danny Trejo as the bartender, and that's also part of a collaboration with Rodriguez, as he shows up in many of his movies. And part of Trejo's acting deal, that if he plays a bad guy, that guy has to die. To show that the crime doesn't pay. It's pretty fundamental to Danny Trejo.
I like that.
Throughout the movie, you also have a lot of references and Easter eggs to other movies by Rodriguez and Tarantino, like the big Kahuna burgers and a few lines in the movie. And you also have Texas Ranger Earl McGraw is also a recurring character who shows up in many movies. Death Proof, Planet Terror, and others. I forgot to write down a complete list of it, but for whatever reason, he keeps coming back.
One thing that I didn't remember about this movie, it's at the end where they pan out and you see it's like an Aztec temple. The whole thing is built on. I don't remember that scene.
It's supposed to be there. Originally, it wasn't, but it was added later on as a thing. But there's never been a version of the movie that doesn't have it.
Another funny thing that what was a little bit fun at least, was when the reporter was talking about all the crimes, and there was like a kill count in the
In the news, in the news broadcast, you could see how many death counts and how it was ticking up. That was yeah.
It was quite bizarre, but in a comedical way.
Kind of making fun of the American media. Music-wise, I think it's fun. The movie has some good tunes with Texas blues, so you have that connection. If we're talking about these movies we watched lately having something to do with blues, you also have Chicano Rock by Tito and Tarantula, and the main theme, Dark Knight by the Blasters, which is an example of swamp rock, genre you might recognize from Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Swamp rock. That's a new one.
Yeah, it's basically that it comes out of Louisiana.
Oh, okay. Then it makes sense.
I was wondering what could have been done differently and other thoughts.
Something that's pretty much always bugged me about this movie is that Rich is shot in the hand early on, and you have this incredible effect with a big hole in his hand that he has to cover up with some silver tape and everything. And that's a kind of injury that would completely cripple your middle finger. He doesn't have any connection to the rest of his hand there, so he would basically be incapable of using that hand.
So they did a little bit of a movie magic there that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, he wouldn't be able to move that finger at all. And still he basically pulls his hand together and tapes it up.
But we can say that it was a very wholesome hand.
Aside from that, I think it's interesting how it's done. And when it comes to the vampires, like I said, it has a very interesting take on vampirism. And you have these hideously deformed creatures that are at times vaguely lizard or snake-like. I think that's very interesting. And I think originally that was to do with these creatures actually not being vampires. That Rodriguez wanted them to be some kind of Latin American equivalent. I don't know the specifics. And that is actually explored more in the TV series that I have not been able to watch. Vampires all the same, and it's this thing about how they, once they're exposed, they're not as aggressive. They're held back with a cross, of course, but during fights and everything, they aren't these intense, beastly attackers. And I think that's to do with the vampires being ambush predators. That they basically surround their prey in the shape of these beautiful women and then turn into what they are. And once they're exposed, they don't really have that advantage, considering how they're stated to be pretty fragile, actually.
Yeah, that was a cool piece of information that they added in the movie, saying they were pretty squishy or soft compared to an actual human way. That was pretty cool.
Kind of a meta commentary, because you have these fight scenes prior to that where they impale the vampires with such ease, and it's like, okay, we gotta have an explanation for why that's so easy, but it works out. That's another bit of trivia. I've only really found one source for it, so maybe it's anecdotal, but Samuel L. Jackson's Bible quote in Pulp Fiction was originally written for Keitel's Jacob, as they're ready up for the showdown with the vampires. And I think reading the whole thing, it would really work in that scene. But I can't entirely confirm that it's actually true.
I mean, all I can say is that it's a wacky movie. It's like watching two different movies just melt together, and but it's fun. It's a fun time. I would say it holds up today. Not most family friendly, but it's a fun movie. It's a cool little experiment, having two directors directing half each, kind of.
Another thing was that Salma Hayek's role as the lead vampire, so to speak, that she actually had an intense fear of snakes. And for her dance number, she had to basically have some therapy beforehand to tolerate the snake by exposure. Her role in the movie actually came about by two different projects. Her earlier role in Rodriguez Desperado and a minor short film project. I think Tarantino was involved. As for what could have been done differently, of course, I think it's kind of weird how Tarantino somehow always ends up with a foot in his face. And
Yes.
I mean, these days we know why, but come on, dude.
Yeah. It's too much. Do that in your free time. You don't have to expose everybody watching your movies to that stuff. Jesus.
So, other ideas for next time?
Well, I had been going through these things, and like I said, it would be interesting to watch Desperado at some point. I've also been keen on the old Super Mario movie from, I think it was 93, something like that. And recently picked up Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
Oh, yes. I want to see that one.
That might be a thing for next week. And besides that, the idea of watching the Tales from the Crypt feature movie, Demon Knight.
So I wish you all goodbye for this time. Don't forget to watch, like, and subscribe, and follow our social. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.